Alright, last one, very short section, 13.7. How can we reduce the threat of flooding? So believe it or not, sometimes there can be too much water, alright? And most of this takes place and happens because people choose to live near water, on the coastline, alongside of a river, near a lake, alright? I live out near Lake Hardy, and I chose to live there because I like it. And guess what? 6 years ago, there was a massive flood, and my home almost flooded. That is a choice that I made to move to an existing house there. And it's one of the side effects. So human activities have contributed to deaths and damages and floods. So you can see here, this happens a lot in California. We've got a hillside, right? The trees, through transpiration, movement of water from roots to the leaves, can process a lot of water and prevent flooding, prevent mudslides, prevent sediment moving into a river and destroying it. Now, when we remove those trees, right, now all of a sudden we have this land subsidence moving this land down into the river. There was just a mudslide that took place in Washington State actually a couple weeks ago, and every year during the rainy season, you hear it in California, it happens. Just a little bit amount of rain, if you removed all the vegetation from a hillside, will cause this to happen. So that's no good. No good. So because we have built and developed along the right up to the river in so many areas and right up to the lake in so many areas, we've removed the areas known as floodplains. These floodplains used to be great areas to grow crops. Rivers flood all the time. It's a natural process, and what it does over time is when the river is carrying sediment down, right, towards the delta, the mouth of the river, and into the ocean, as it floods, when we have heavy rainfall, rapid snow melts, it goes over its banks and deposits a lot of the sediment, and it raises the banks of the river, right? And then the river overflows and lands in these small depressions, right, which are wetlands, which help recharge the aquifers. It helps hold on to some of the excess water, acts like a sponge, right, and holds on to it for us. Well, when we go through and develop that, or remove all that stuff to then farm alongside these rivers, then we don't have those nutrients and those sediments deposited on the riverbanks anymore, right? So we develop the wetlands. We lose that sponge. We make it much easier for a flood to become catastrophic and damage our homes, our neighborhoods, and ourselves. So to minimize floods, rivers have been narrowed with levees and walls, trying to shore up the water, keep the water away from us in the areas we don't want it, and get it to flow some other place where we're okay with it flooding. And that all takes money, and it's a lot of cost. The most important way to reduce flooding is to restore and preserve wetlands, right? Make sure that we find the most sensitive areas that can do the most for us and just leave them in their natural state as they are, and let that natural cycle of flooding take place. Let's see, St. Louis, Missouri, under normal conditions in 1998, and after severe flooding in 1993. And you can see anybody who had developed around this area, they would be underwater. And this natural flooding process, like I said, is natural, and it happens all the time. We just have to be aware of it, and if you choose to live near those areas, be aware that flooding does take place, and that you might have water in your home one day. And that is it.